be proud to be called crazy by people who are still victims of social conditioning, because that means you're doing something right. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Universal Crystals. My name is Eli, and today I'm going to be sending out a message to everyone who is going through a spiritual awakening right now. And so none of this video is planned. I'm just coming off the top of my head, the top of my heart, really. And I'm just going to be saying how I feel in this present moment and letting the words come out of my mouth as they will. But I think this is going to be a pretty helpful video because I've been there. If you could go back to the beginning of my channel, that's kind of around the time that I had just had a spiritual awakening, and I decided to document it. So you can see the journey that I've been on so far, and hopefully stick with me by subscribing if you want to see where this journey takes me, and I'll be here, you know, at least as someone you can relate to about your spiritual awakening. If you're having a real spiritual awakening, it feels like it's been forced upon you in a way normally. Whether or not you did just happen to run across some spiritual information, that could definitely happen, and then that kind of sparks a light within you that allows you to awaken. But you feel like you're going crazy because you didn't ask for this, you know, it's like it's forced on you by the real you, by your soul, which is the real you. This is what you ultimately came here to do. But your ego hates that. Your ego wants to keep you trapped in the box that you've been in. It wants you to identify with the old you, and it wants you to keep living in the past and the future. And so you're going to think you're going crazy, not just because it feels like you didn't really ask for this. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening to you. Your life feels completely different. And most of the time, it was actually started by a bad experience, which turned out to be the best thing for you. But at the time, it's an ego-shattering experience, what they call ego death. You could have been broken up with, you could have lost your job, you could have lost something that you really attached your sense of self to. You could have come to the realization that you don't like the person that you had become. You don't like yourself. You don't like the self that you previously identified with because you're still thinking from the level of the mind. But once you have this awakening, you realize that you're not your mind. You realize that you're not the thoughts, emotions, beliefs, patterns that you have formed. You're not that. What you really are is much deeper than that. You're the one observing it all. You're the presence that's always there. And because of this, you're so excited. Normally, after your dark night of the soul, or even when it first happens, you might have a dark night of the soul after, but you're so excited to tell other people many times. You're like, this is the craziest thing ever, because you've actually discovered, I don't want to say the key to life, but it's probably the biggest realization you'll ever come to, and the most important one. And so you realize this, and if you've done this, you probably know, trying to explain this to someone who is not yet awakened is not going to get through to them. They're going to think you're crazy. They might call you crazy, or they might just listen and act like, oh, okay. And a lot of people will judge you. They will think of you different when you start talking about these things. And so this can make you feel bad. It's like, well, I don't want to be an outcast. I don't want to, feel like I'm different from everybody. And that's the ego. That's the ego still believing in separation, that I am not one with everything. I am separate from this person. While yes, in your bodies you are separate, you are connected together through the highest source of consciousness. And people are not going to be able to understand you. They will only be able to understand you at the level that they understand themselves. To the level that they know themselves is the level that they can know you. And if they only know themselves as this body and mind, and they don't realize that they are the soul, that they are the presence, then they're going to have a very difficult time getting any of this. And it cannot really be explained with words. Experience is really the way that you discover this. You can't just talk about it and make someone awaken. It's going to have to happen at the time that it happens. And so I guess what I'm getting at is, if you feel crazy right now, if you feel like you're kind of lost, it will get better. I know it's a cliche. I know. But stick with it and realize that you don't have to worry about your identity that you think you are. It doesn't matter what they think about you. What matters is the feeling that you have. The feeling that you have that you can take with you anywhere. The presence that you will live with will be so great that you won't care anymore. Once you get past that initial stage, you won't care anymore. You'll want to go after the things that you've always wanted to do, and it can be very scary. Starting this YouTube channel was the scariest thing ever for me, and it still is in a lot of ways. I've wanted to give this up so many times because I've just thought, wouldn't it be so much easier to go back to my old life and just fit in and not have to worry about anybody thinking I'm weird? And I've tried that, and I'm here to tell you, it's not going to work. Once you have a spiritual awakening, you can't go back. You can't go back. Once you know yourself as pure consciousness, you can't forget that. And so everything you do in your life, you're still going to know that. And your life is going, you know the benefits that you're getting from it, and all the things that are coming into your life that to other people seem like coincidences. They seem like, oh, that guy's just lucky. He's just getting all these things because he's just lucky. But you know deep down it's not luck. It's because you're in alignment. You're in alignment with the universe. Because you are the universe. And when you will know when you're out of alignment, because you will feel it. There will be a disconnect. You feel like, that's many of the reasons, or one of the reasons why you might have had a spiritual awakening. A big reason is that you felt out of alignment with your current life. You're sick of working that 9-to-5 job. You're sick of going to a school that you hate. You're sick of doing the same thing that everyone else has been doing because they're all conditioned to do the same thing. There's a reason people are conditioned this way. There's a reason we're not taught about this in school. There's a reason for all of it. And even that control is here to help us. It's here to play a part in the illusion that we signed up for before we came here. We knew that we were going to forget all of the truth. We knew that we were going to forget everything that we knew before we came here. Because we have to, in order to be able to experience love on this planet of duality, we also have to experience fear and pain and other emotions, because it's yin and yang, light and dark, masculine, feminine. This is a world of duality. So if we didn't know what the opposite of love was, we wouldn't really feel it. If we were just always in love on this planet, if everything was just purely, everything is love, but what I'm saying, if we all just had an experience where we didn't have any of these dark nights of the soul, we didn't have all these things that broke us down to our lowest point, we would have never discovered the truth. And all of this is happening for a better reason. As weird as it might sound, as silly as that might sound, it really is. You only realize it after the fact many times. While you're going through it, it's very hard to realize it. So that's why I'm making this video, for everybody who might be going through that. And even if you've already gone through it, it's very easy to fall back into the pattern of the mind. The ego's very sneaky. It can get you back in its grasp. God, my hands are cold. But forgot to wear my big jacket. It's freezing. But anyway, you forgot that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. You forgot that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. You forgot. Originally, you forgot. And you came here to remember that, because it's all a game. This is just the game of awakening. Many people won't reach that in this lifetime. That's why they come back, to discover things. But do you want to live your life how other people want you to live it, and at your funeral everybody can sing your praises and you'll have a bunch of money? Or maybe you won't have a bunch of money, because that might come because you're actually going to be living in alignment. But what I'm saying is, do you want all these things that aren't even going to matter? We're all going to die. As harsh of a reality as that is, our soul won't die. Our body and our mind will die. But the real us won't die. And the way that I see this as well, it's pretty much proven, because, well, it's not proven, but I mean, it's about close as it can get from my experiences. But anyway, there is a thing that when people die, they have measured that like 20, I can't remember how many, 20 something grams comes out of them. I think it's 20 something grams, like floats out of the body. And that has been like proven by science. So that's the soul. That's the soul leaving the body. That's what I think it is, because it's not anything like they lose that tiny bit of weight. It's the soul leaving the body. And that soul is what has been everywhere. It's always existed. Universal crystals forever. It's forever. We are infinite spiritual beings having this temporary human experience. And the way this world works is everybody's so conditioned to do the same thing. Everybody wants to fit in, and everybody is told how they have to live. But it's all meant to control. It's all a joke. It's all a joke, and you're starting to realize that. And that's what you came here to realize. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really even matter what you do. Just do what your heart wants you to do. Follow your intuition, and you will be led to places that you could never even imagine right now. It's not magic. It's science. Because magic is science undiscovered. You see, they haven't discovered many of these things. Back in the day, they would have thought a lot of the things that we have now were impossible and would be magic. But look where we are. Don't gain the world and lose your soul. Wisdom is better than silver or gold. Bob Marley. And the Bible, but in a slightly different way. I think he was referencing the Bible. But the Bible actually does have a lot of spiritual truth if read in the right context, if not read from the ego and taken literally in every word as, this is what you've got to do. Because if you did that, we would be killing all gay people and a lot of other things, but let's not get into that. But I'm just saying, any fear-based belief system you know is false. It might have true teachings within it, but the way that they've created it now has become a fear-based belief system in many ways. And that can be a scary thing as well. Breaking out of a religion. It's like everybody around you believes in it. You used to believe in it. Your whole family, your friends, especially in the South, everybody around me believes in this certain thing. And a lot of them would think I'm a bad person. I've been possessed by the devil because I've discovered the true me. Because I've been living my life from a place of presence and not ego. I am now possessed. Because the devil disguises himself as an angel of light. And it's New Age deception. But the ego is the biggest form of deception there is. And for anybody who's like me and just feels like, and many times it would be way easier to just blend back in and be the old you. Do you really want to do that? Go ahead and try it for yourself. I've done it, and I don't want that for myself. Don't gain the world and lose your soul. Wisdom is better than silver or gold. It's way better to live your life from a place of truth than to hide the true you, hide the gifts that you know you've been given, not do the things that your heart wants you to do just for some money, just for some acceptance, just to feel like you aren't weird. But it's okay. Be proud of being called crazy by people who are still victims of social conditioning. Be proud to be called crazy by people who are still victims of social conditioning, because that means you're doing something right. They don't know any better. You don't have to be mad at these people. You don't have to judge them. They just don't know yet. It hasn't been their time. At one point, most of us were just like that, you know? And this can bring a lot of guilt after your spiritual awakening about things that you've done in the past because you weren't conscious and you didn't actually know any better, because you wouldn't have done it if you really knew any better. And the guilt and shame is the biggest weapon of the ego. And you might have those mind attacks or ego attacks. You might go through it. But it's all going to be worth it in the end. I just want to encourage you to continue on this path, because as hard as it might be, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. You don't have to make it hard. The only reason it's hard is because you're still resisting what is. You're still resisting the present moment. You're resisting the here and now and the truth that you already know, that you've always known deep down, just your mind might not have known it. And so you are losing your mind. You're losing the identification with the fake you, with a bunch of crap that you don't need anymore, and maybe even people that aren't serving you anymore. But you can also be friends with people even if they don't share your beliefs. You don't have to see yourself as better, see yourself as some type of person that's just way better than everybody else because now you're awakened. Don't get a spiritual ego. Just know yourself. Make meditation a lifestyle. And always live in the moment. Because to live in the past or to live in the future is just cheating your present. It's just cheating your present. And Cam Newton actually said that on a video recently. If you guys don't know, one of the things that happened that broke down my ego when my awakening happened is my favorite football player, Cam Newton, for my favorite team, the Panthers. He was released around the same time that Kobe Bryant died, Juice WRLD died. It was all kind of in that era. And, you know, he just got signed back to the team. But the crazy thing about it was that I had a dream only like 2 or 3 days before of him coming back to the team, and that dream came true. It was the craziest thing because it was so unlikely. And then he was wearing crystals on his hat, and he started talking about the present moment a bunch, and I'm just like, what reality am I in? Am I in a dream right now? I am in a dream. I've known I'm in a dream, but it's like you have these experiences and synchronicities that let you know along the way to keep going. That's the universe, the real you, telling you that everything's working out fine. When you see those repeating numbers, when you have dreams that come true, those are reminders, those are messages that you're on the right path. Or even if you're off track, they'll get you back on, because it's like, oh, I remember now. I am a spiritual being having a human experience. This is a simulation that we're living in. Not a computer simulation, but a simulation of the soul. And it's a fun game to play. What would life be without the trials and tribulations? What would life be without the things that we went through to end our suffering? We went through suffering so that we could end our suffering. Make sure to check out my last video. It'll be popping up on the screen about how I hated myself. I hated myself. And what was that self? Check it out. I think it's a really good video. I love you all. Universal crystals forever.